139.
Okay. 48-hour art check round. It can't be 139. 159 maybe?
59. 159. Oh my goodness.
159.
Close to 160.
We are, we are creeping our way towards 160. We like sprinted towards 125.
Exactly.
Just been pacing ourselves. We'll call it that. Oh man. Okay.
All right, here we are.
Here we are. It is funny. We were just talking about off air. We were talking about how it's entertaining that kind of our moods and kind of creative cycles and slumps and sprints and stuff kind of line up. And yeah, that is true. Anyway,
Yeah, 100%.
so we're thinking of not doing a topic and just kind of catching up on our projects. We missed a couple days because we took a day off to kind of get a bunch of stuff done. And so I'm curious in where you are. I'd like to show you where I am. And I don't know that we'll throw a timer up as much as just kind of talk about it until you're done talking about it, and then we can just call it.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so tell me about your progress.
All right. I have 4 panels roughly penciled. I did the rough panel borders and rough lettering.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I just need to get like rough pencils done for the day, and getting that done has been crazy insane. I had a pretty busy weekend and stuff, but we'll get into that, I guess, with challenges and stuff. But I'm pretty excited about the progress I'm making, and for me, the struggle right now is just like maintaining momentum on other things than the project. Like the project is going forward. It's just it's life gets hectic and all that stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It just seems to be that time of
but I'm
year or
pretty
something.
excited. It's like a sequence where I'm going to be panning through all these different characters, kind of droning out uh, verse in unison at a chapel, and I think it'll be kind of funny and
Oh,
interesting.
cool.
So,
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
yeah. So, anyhow,
Awesome. How many pages do you have left?
after this, I think about maybe even less. I don't know. It's this last section, and then the first book's done.
Cool.
So, you know, which is kind of not too bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
awesome.
probably like maybe 3, maybe 4 more pages.
Cool. That's cool. Um, I'm. Is that not going to work? Of course, it's not going to work. I'm trying to figure out several things. I am like making super slow progress on this, like from what I can show. But basically, I'm trying to. I bought another plugin from Battle Axe for After Effects, and I'm trying to understand how it works. I'm teaching myself a new system. It's called Overlord, and it basically is supposed to push shapes from Illustrator to After Effects. In essence, it turns Illustrator into a plugin that lives inside of After Effects, so that because After Effects is like ways of editing anchor points and paths and stuff, or what they call vertex,
Got it.
is annoying. And so basically, you can do it this way. The downside that I didn't realize until tonight was you can only update one shape at a time. And so, like in this character, who is a background minor character that's literally only on the short for several seconds, but is like going to be repeated, like a bunch of times because it's like a crowd of ants. So I just wanted to have the ability to vary the movement a little bit. So I'm basically trying to get him to turn his head. But because I did it in my style, which kind of has like multiple layers of values, uh,
Yeah.
each one of those is its own separate shape layer that has its own set of anchor points, and the anchor points need to be animated, like one at a time. And so,
Uh,
and I've got to get them into all 5 positions. So there's home, right, left, up, and down. And then once I do that, like it just takes so long. But once I do that, then I'll be able to animate him ridiculously fast and make him pretty much look in any direction, which will which will be really good. But it's just a new way of doing things for me. So I'm just not used to this like slower process of like rigging taking longer than the animating. So
got it.
yeah. But anyway,
So it's hard to have. It's kind of like any heavy previs stuff where it takes a lot of patience to kind of do that, and then it pays off at the end. But just getting through that early slog is a learning curve.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
I can probably talk more about that in challenges, but yeah, it's
yeah,
that's what I've been doing, and I don't
it's
know. It
good.
feels weird because it's like it's been a week and I have like a head of a simple character to show.
Yeah,
So it's just not the normal type of progress that I'm used to as far as like visual production. It's mostly grinded to a halt as I like learn stuff and then just do the painstakingly slow thing. I'll show you in a minute, but yeah, it's slow. You're over here busting out pages, and I'm like, I figured out how to move an anchor point.
I don't know. Like, it's funny because it feels very slow on this end too, where it's just like because of the nature of the small windows of time I have to work, it always feels like I'm running in slow motion. And then like, it all kind of compiles and looks like a lot, but after it's just a lot of like little windows of time that are never enough time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, so
Um,
like I don't feel like I've gotten much done in the last week either, because I'm like, if I had like a solid 8 hours, I could finish this page.
right.
So
I mean, there have been several days in the last week where I haven't gotten home until 9 o'clock at night. And then it's just like
yeah,
that's when you get and it's not like I can just like jump in and get started because I've got to like say hi to my family, make sure they still know that I exist.
exactly.
So yeah. Uh, anyway, graduation got out earlier this semester though, so that's nice. We got home at like 8 instead of like 10. So,
Yeah.
so how
It was a
about
little
how about
better.
challenges for you? I feel like we're kind of already started diving into that, but
Yeah, so for me, good challenge. Like on Saturday, my niece and sister kind of wanted to go to Disneyland
oh,
for
cool.
sister's birthday. And so I went to Disneyland and I got to go to Star Wars Land, which is awesome, like unbelievably awesome. I'm kind of on board with it. And like, it didn't really hit home to me how much I would be geeked out by it until I walked up to like a full scale Millennium Falcon and was like, oh, oh, this like hits on a level that's like beyond just like now it's like a nostalgia that I can't even describe.
Yeah.
And then being able to go on that ride and drive the Millennium Falcon in a very believable way to where you feel tense the entire time because you're flying through outer space and you can crash. And I mean, like, there's real stakes to your mission.
Yeah.
And just walking in to the Millennium Falcon and like it's like you're on, like you're in the film, like you're in the actual Millennium Falcon. It was an incredible, um, like the way the Imagineers that worked on that built, and just the attention to detail of that entire part of the park it's just completely immersive and totally brought me back to being like a 5-year-old. So that was like, it's a challenge to like, I didn't get much art done that day,
Yeah.
but oh my gosh, like definitely a challenge. If I ever will have the budget to do that again, I they kind of won me over. It was really incredible. I did a lot of video too, so there's another challenge is just trying to find time because I still have video from when my band played a show that I wanted to kind of share with people. I have like a little tour of Star Wars Land that I want to edit, and it's just time just doesn't exist right now. We're in rush season. We're ramping up to like the peak of our rush season, and so like everything goes out the window. And then even if I get out of work on time, it's like the same old challenge of you're firing on like 20 cylinders, and like when you're done, you're done. Like you're
Yeah.
like my brain is just paced at the end of the workday. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome though. That's cool. I've heard a lot of cool things. I think stuff like that tends to be really good fuel for making things.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, I have a buddy who works in the signage department, and he worked on that land, so it was kind of fun too, because it's like I got to walk around and see what my friend was working on for years,
Yeah.
and like kind of the hard labor he does at his job, kind of come to this awesome thing when like a team collaborates, and somehow they got a lot of really cool stuff through corporate, which is just like amazing to me. So yeah, I don't know. It's a cool experience, and definitely if you're ever in California, you should consider it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. We've got Chris and Kayla in the chats. How you guys doing? Um, yeah, that's way cool. I like that. Malia's going to Disneyland at some point. I don't know. I think next year. She's been saving up here and there. So, but yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I usually can't justify it, but there was like this deal with pass holders, and I don't know. Anyhow,
Yeah.
worked out. I had a freelance job too come up over the weekend, so I was like, okay, I can do that. Like I can
Yeah.
freelance, and it'll pay my way, which was kind of cool. So
Yeah, that's cool. I've had a bit of freelance so far. I'm just in the meeting and talking stage before anybody signs anything, but it's still like they want to meet in person, so you still like drive over there and have a meeting. It's just just kind of eats up a little bit of time during the day.
yeah, those meetings.
Yeah. My main challenge, I'll show you. This is my sketchbook is kind of, oh no, my thing is freezing. It's kind of just filling up with random stuff as I try to figure some of this out. So that's like my main character there. And you can see like I'm trying to figure out like how he articulates and everything, and then like the proportions of him. So like over here you can see like I'm doing like eye measurements.
Yeah.
But this is what I found. I found what I was looking for to kind of describe the challenge. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but if you look really closely, I've numbered each of these anchor points, and I have to plan out where each anchor point goes from one movement to the next. So when he turns profile, I have to make sure that this shape doesn't collapse in on itself as it moves from one spot to the next.
Yeah.
And so like you'll see like this is number 1, and then this is number 1, and then this one is number 2, and this one is number 2, and so that one stretches out as this one moves back, and then like this bottom part, this part wraps around to create the outer edge.
Yeah.
And so like just the construction of it becomes, it's just like a level of complication that I haven't tackled before. So it's kind of new in that, and I mean I kind of showed this already, but you can see like working out like different phases of head turns, and then
maybe that can be part of what we kind of chat about, because I used to have like that be an assignment for students, like doing a an accurate turnaround of a
Oh, cool.
character.
Yeah.
And they'd always start with like really complex characters, and it'd be like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
you want it like, like those pop figures, like that's what you want to do. Like that's
Right.
the highest level of detail you want to do till you get it down.
Yeah.
And they would really like, always push it too far first critique. And then when I'd go in there and measure exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, hey, this point to this point, they don't match.
Yeah.
And like, so that's off. So now it's going to look warped when it turns around. And I just did it as a vinyl toy project, but that's one of the ultimate turnaround tests, because if you can't sculpt it, it's
Right.
it's going to be really problematic. But it's still immense challenge. And I've known like maybe 2 or 3 artists who like I've never nailed it perfectly. I know like 2 guys, both who ended up working for Bongo, who can do like, just turn something around perfectly accurate.
Right.
But like it's a hard and rare skill, and like the second you start, anyhow, I think that's awesome that you're having to kind of go through that, which I'm sure you've done before, but it's like having to worry about the anchor point of like the tip of the nose and stuff. That's um for anyone out there who's like, really, Cory, like, come on, it's just turning the head. No, it's not.
Yeah. And
So
especially the way that I'm doing it is faking 3D. And so
yeah,
it's not actually 3D.
yeah,
So I have to figure out it's not just like, what shape is it from this angle and what shape is it from this angle to make sure that they're the same.
yeah,
But it's like this shadow needs to change to define a different angle as it
yeah.
moves. And so like
Insane.
I have to figure out how to use that shape that is making that shadow in a way that defines the change of direction of the light as the head turns, but it's not 3D. And so it's like, because I've done turnarounds for characters before, and you do
Yeah,
it in
yeah,
comics and illustration, and you're like, yeah, I get the general idea of this character. When he looks over there, he looks like this, and then you draw it or whatever. But it's not like anybody gets like a ruler out, and like tries to make sure, is his nose in the right spot, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But when you're animating, like, it looks really weird that a head-on shot melts in between in between a transition to a profile. So you have to figure it out, and you have to figure it out like anchor point by anchor point,
yeah,
or they because After Effects tracks the order of the creation of the shape, and so like if there's 4 points that make up a circle, and in one frame, point number 1 is at the top, and the other frame, point number 2 is at the bottom. Uh, it's not going to like instinctively know that you want it to change into this cool looking oval or bean or whatever. It's going to move anchor point number 1 to the bottom, so the whole circle will collapse in on itself as it inverts. And so
yeah.
you have to
And
figure out
I
like,
instantly
where is this one
thinking
going to
like,
move?
yeah, I'm instantly thinking like, okay, well that works for like one direction, but when you've added lighting to it, then you turn to the other direction. How do you avoid the collapse? Like that's complex.
Right. And the other thing that is, I'll just bring this up again to further illustrate why my brain is broken right now. If you look, like my style tends to have heavy line work that tapers to a point.
Yeah,
That's impossible to do in After Effects. So you can't have strokes that taper to a point. So those are not strokes. That is a black shape with a red shape in front of it, and the red shape changes to taper the black shape to a point. But when he turns his head, you'll notice that on the top one where he's turning his head, the termination of that stroke shifts down and to the left.
yeah,
And so what I have to do is I have to make sure that both the black shape and the red shape on top are tweening or shifting in such a way that it continues to look like a line and terminates at a terminated stroke rather than at a blob or whatever. And so
insane.
I'm making it really hard on myself because I still want it to look like I did it. And so I'm like
Yeah,
forcing it to do things that it doesn't do.
that's great though. That's the best way to find new things. I mean, like half of how like distortion pedals and like delay pedals, any effect pedal on a guitar was invented was people making a guitar do things they shouldn't do.
Right.
It's part of the creative process. So I think that's really cool because I think you're going to come out of it with some really awesome kind of even more skills under your belt on top of the the ones you've already acquired. That's badass.
Yeah, and a lot of what I was doing was, and this is just another testimony of, don't try to learn things, just do projects.
Yeah,
Because a lot of what I figured out, I had to figure out because I was working on a project with Scott Serkland, and his character had a hat. So his character is a sphere with circle eyes and lines, which was difficult, but for the most part, it was like I know what ellipses do in perspective, and so I could figure that out. But the hat shape was kind of floppy. It was one of those newsy hats, and so when it turned and went into a profile, it completely changed shape and lighting. And so, like, at first, I just told Scott, I've worked on this for like 4 hours. I have no idea how to do it. You might have to redraw this hat. And he was like, the client approved this. So sorry that I didn't talk to you beforehand, but it kind of has to be this. So try to figure it out. Even if you have to do like frame by frame, like we've got to figure something out. So then I went back to the drawing board and I was like, all right, let's think through what this is. And that's where I thought of the shapes that are the same color on other shapes, but then you treat them as if they're like different layers uh, overlapping. And so if you look really closely at that newsy animation that Scott and I did, you'll see the line appear and disappear, uh, defining different parts of the hat by that technique that I'm trying to use with this ant, where it's actually the fill of another shape that's causing that stroke to taper to a point and disappear and reappear. And so now that I know how to do that, I'm trying to apply it to this other character and realizing that maybe having 60 different individual objects to make up this background character's head is maybe a little bit overkill, but so I'm probably going to simplify it a little bit. But
I
yeah,
love it.
so those are my non-life challenges. That's just like what I'm working on.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah,
100% understand too, and I think for any creative with like similar personalities to us, it's like even the comic I'm working on, like that first panel, I did a little mini crowd scene, and
yeah,
it's just be a tiny panel on the left hand side.
right,
The reason I did it was because the story needed it,
yeah,
and so it's like you're kind of it's this weird thing where there's this beautiful and terrifying thing that happens when you're your own client because you're your pickiest client, and often you'll make yourself do things that your clients you wouldn't even let a client make you do, but you're like,
yeah,
because it's a personal project and it's your own property, it's like you have a much higher investment in it and stuff. I think I credit to you, man. Like that's cool, and I think it's cool that you care because like
yeah,
there are a lot of people who kind of when they work on personal projects they'll just kind of crap them out, and sometimes it's effective and sometimes it's not. But I think the people who really go that extra mile, I mean, I saw a picture on Facebook of like Chris Ware with his Ink Pot Award from Comic-Con, and I was like, there's no cartoonist in the industry who'd be like, that guy doesn't deserve that award.
right.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, but that's part of why is like all those little details and all that extra stuff that's kind of unnecessary, but it's like so necessary. It's weird. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know. I think it's probably imposter syndrome or something, but like I know I do a few things well.
yeah.
And I'm also exceptionally aware of my weaknesses, and 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 so the things that I do well, I want to do really well. As kind of a way of like being like, I know that people who know what they're talking about are going to watch this animated short, and they're going to see all the strings and all the seams. They're going to see all the stuff. But I at least want them to be like, yeah, that guy's just kind of making it up as he goes along. But holy crap, he does these three things really well. So
Yeah.
so that's
No, I
kind of
think I think that's key because like one of the few reasons I felt comfortable in the NCS was like when I
yeah,
entered that. The only reason I thought I might even have a shot in the dark at it was like I know that I've done my damnedest like on this.
yeah,
By no means am I an expert on comics because I just don't think you can be.
yeah,
Um, and I can see the flaws from a mile away in even my current project, but like still I know I put in that extra stuff that like, eh, you know, that I know is going to like anybody who knows their salt is at least going to be like, well, wow, they drew that whole, like there's a bridge scene that where I drew the bridge in full perspective, like,
right.
and stuff like that, where it's like, I didn't have to, but I didn't do those easy side view cheats on every shot of the bridge. And so like, I tend to think that maybe that is just like the creator. I don't know. Maybe it's silly to do because I do see artists who are like really free with it make excellent work. Like,
Yeah, well, and I think there's a time and a place. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is probably the lowest that I would go as far as like a hierarchy thing.
yeah,
Uh, this character's head and hands and feet are probably like the lowest like level of hierarchy that I would bother spending this much time on because anything below this, uh, I don't know that it's going to have a significant impact. I've done those things where like anybody who knows what I'm talking about, the limits of an Adobe Zoom. You know what I mean? Like you hit that 64,000% zoom and you're like, oh, I've gone down a rabbit hole that doesn't matter. Like, and and this is kind of one of those things where this is a background character, not a main character. It's going to be a crowd of these guys. I
yeah,
feel like it's gonna make it work. But like, if I were to go in and start like animating the fingers on the hand of one of these characters when there's no shot in my storyboard that will ever zoom in on that or show that or anything,
yeah,
that would be like a level of overkill where it doesn't matter because it
yeah, 100%.
no one of any skill level will notice. So you try to gauge it, like
Yeah,
there are times in comics where it's like just do a silhouette because it's an effective way to like do pacing and it's also kind of a time cheat. But like you can clearly communicate sometimes by
oh yeah,
blacking something out or not doing this giant expansive crowd scene or whatever.
yeah, 100%. And I've used those, so it's like I think at the end of the day, you got to base it on what the story calls for,
Yeah,
and then like another thing is like I mean like people like I get complimented for doing hand lettering and doing my panel borders before doing my art. But what a lot of people don't realize is that saves me a lot of drawing time. Like it's actually a good hack because it's like I've seen and I've been the cartoonist who's wasted legitimate hours of time drawing something that gets covered up by a word bubble.
right.
And it's like why? Like
Yeah,
why draw that? Like that is equivalent to drawing the hand, that like no one's gonna see because um I mean, that's nice for like if you're working for a client and they're going to be like, "Hey, can we move the word bubble over here?"
right.
You know, but if it's for your own work, I don't know. It's just a thought, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, let's get into. You want to jump into plans?
Yeah. So what are your plans for the next little bit? Oh, and I should say I am hitting the road next week, so I'll be in the Pacific Northwest
Nice.
remotely. So
Nice. Say hi to Kevin Cross while you're up there.
yeah, I might. That'd be fun.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. Um, yeah, I am hoping to kind of get to. Well, I guess it's going to be a while then. So I should have this page finished by the next time we have an art check.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can still do it remotely.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh well,
So.
in that case, I will walk that back because it's way too ambitious. Uh, I'd like to have the rough pencils done by the next time because I think, let's see, today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I should be able to have the rough pencils done on this page.
Cool.
Although there's three other crowd scenes on this page, so maybe not. But I'm going to try.
Oh, that's awesome. I am going to have this character look to the right. That sounds like nothing. Uh,
Animation builds.
yeah, but I will have at least that, and then I have to completely redraw my main character because I think I already showed this, but I did it, and albeit not redraw completely, but I did it. But I had so there's my aunt character based off of Calvin and Hobbes proportions, which I thought was kind of fun. Um, but I actually drew him correctly. But my initial character, I drew him like I normally would, thinking that I had everything right. Um, but I didn't think it through. So I've got like, I've got like, hey, I've got his arm and his legs and everything, and I can like take his leg and like move it around and whatever. I've got all these layers. But what I didn't realize is that if I want to turn his head, I can't draw his head as one entire unit.
Oh.
And so I've got to draw like the shadow under the lower lip and the line, that makes the lip. Like each of those has to be a different layer. So I'll be able to use a lot of this, but I'm going to have to redo the head, and the head itself will take a significant amount of time. So, but I think it'll work. I think I worked out a lot of it,
That's, that's
mainly.
awesome.
So, if I get that head turning to the left, then I'll be able to knock out the rest of it really fast, and then I'll get to. So I mean, this is basically done, and I can articulate that arm and the feet like really easily.
Yeah.
Because he's just gonna like he's not actually gonna have a walk cycle. He's gonna have like a Super Mario Brothers walk cycle where his feet just kind of move back and forth.
Got it.
So that won't be hard, and then I'll try to tackle the head of this guy. So that's
Man.
yeah.
But the cool thing is, once you have those characters rigged, it is going to pay off, I think, in spades.
Yeah,
Getting through that slog at the beginning.
yeah. I mean, once they're rigged, I like that. The animation I did with Scott, I did that in 12 days, and I spent 9 days rigging, and I spent 2 days animating and 1 day cleaning up. And so, like, once they get rigged, it's crazy
Yeah.
how fast it goes.
No,
Um,
that's an insane amount of. Yeah, that time frame is insane.
so, anyway,
For a one man animation team, that's pretty incredible.
I yeah, I'm still thinking. I'm still thinking I might hang my shingle out there in the world and throw my hat in the ring for limited animation. We'll see.
You should, man. Waltz with Bashir, the full movie was limited animation, and
Mm-hmm.
your capabilities. I haven't really seen much done in that film that you couldn't do. I mean, it's definitely time consuming,
Oh yeah. No,
but
and
yeah,
that and a cider, pears and cider, something like that. There's a few of those that are like that I actually studied the trailers of them over and over and over again, like slowed down to try to figure out. Like that's a lot of how I know how to do what I know how to do today is I'd watch stuff like that at like a quarter speed trying to figure out like where everything is and how it all moves.
Smart.
So, yeah. Like if you guys want to figure out the type of animation that I'm doing, get on YouTube and find an episode of My Little Pony or Archer or My Big Friend, and slow it down to a quarter speed and try to figure out where all the different layers are. It's really interesting that you'll see the breaks. You'll see where the model breaks, and you don't notice it. But I actually teach this in class now. And as soon as you slow it down and turn the sound off, because the sound tricks your brain into thinking there's more movement than there actually is there.
Yeah.
Turn the sound off and slow it down to a quarter speed, and all of a sudden you're like, that tail isn't even attached, or like the middle of the torso, just like the line just completely falls apart or whatever. But then you can tell when you get those little moments, you can see like, oh, I see like the flank is like one shape, and then this part is another shape, and then you got so once you can see that, it's weird. I can't watch cartoons the same anymore, like, because I can see how they work now. So
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, you take a look behind the curtain. Like, perfect example, when I was a kid, I saw Beauty and the Beast, and I was like pretty blown away by the animation.
Oh yeah.
Holt, who's like known people in animation and stuff like that, there is this whole sequence when she's like singing about books and stuff, very beginning, with some of the worst in-betweens and like unintentional squash and stretch,
right,
just sloppy character work on like that entire town full of people. Don't get me wrong, it's a beautifully animated movie.
Yeah.
It's just like it was amazing because we went to see it like with the kids at like the El Capitan, so it's on a big screen, and when you know the medium, it is really hard to like look past that, like, oh, that's like a really, like, they really crapped that character out.
Yeah.
Because they were probably on a tight budget. They had just rehired animators who were a little rusty, like, so while there's beautiful animation, one of the, the thing won an Oscar, but it's like you do start, it is funny how like once you've delved into a world of any kind of art, or production, you look at those things. Like even now, because of where I work, I can't look at souvenirs the same way.
Yeah.
If I have a friend who like buys a keychain at a gas station, I'm like, oh, this was printed this way and it's super cheap and it probably cost them this much. And like, it's like, I can't shut that off now. I can't go back. But anyhow, although that makes it ever more impressive when you see something that does shut you off. Like, like animated, The Illusionist is one of those ones where every time I watch that, just like my criticism just flies out the window, and I'm like, oh, this is just perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's pretty amazing. So we've got Victor and TJ asking what's going on and what they missed. Not a lot, just us kind of updating each other on projects. We weren't really talking particular topic. Kayla, though, just finished a class with me.
Nice.
And she said it's a really cool and helpful way to study animation. Especially figuring out how characters blink. And you want to watch like really interesting stuff, like get a whiteboard out, because this is what I do in class, and like look at My Little Pony and try to figure out how many different layers they have to make up a blinking eye. And it's like 12 at least, because you've got like the eyelid and the eyelash, and then the reflection and the other reflection, and the pupil and the iris, and the whites of the eye, and then the bottom of the eyelid, and the bottom of and like you have all these different things, and then you have different states of those things, and some of them are puppet warped and some of them are replaced. And the interesting thing that as I've been doing this over the past couple semesters, I'm learning more, because I'm like, okay, what do you guys see? In My Little Pony, it's really interesting because when they blink, they always move their head, and there's usually a camera movement. And so they're never perfectly still and just blinking. They're usually blinking with a little head nod, with a little turn or whatever. And if they're changing states from like a dead on to a profile, they replace the head model. And so there's this super obvious jump cut. But usually what happens is that the camera is panning or pulling back as they're blinking and nodding during that jump cut, and so you just miss it. You just don't even see it.
So they're just masking the.
It's just misdirection. Yeah.
Love it. That's great. Thank you for ruining the magic. But then again, luckily I'm not like a brony, so I'm not crushed by this revelation.
Yeah, I don't really feel bad ruining My Little Pony for adults, so it's all right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been fun catching up. I am excited about our next art check. It's weird, but this proves why it's good to do art checks, because I was feeling like bleh, and just
Yeah.
talking a little bit of shop gets me all pumped to work on my comic tonight, which is kind of cool. So
Yeah, I agree. And keep an eye out for there's another group of people that are going to be starting to do an art check. I believe they said
yes.
that they're going to start in August, and
All
so
right.
they're trying to figure out the technical stuff right now. But we're gonna shout them out once they have their first episode up. So
Oh, that makes me so excited. I hope everyone starts doing art checks. It's a good thing.
it seems like it would get in the way, and it seems like it would be time consuming, and it is time consuming, but it definitely doesn't get in the way. It definitely makes you way more productive and way more on task and way more motivated. Like it's just I'm not. There are a lot of reasons that it does that, but it's weird how adding something to your production schedule like this actually helps. But yeah, I'll second what you said. I think it's awesome. So
Yeah. We all need goals. We all need accountability. So
yep,
it's like that's good.
cool.
All
And
right.
if you want to see what we're working on, go to our websites. Josh's website is joshuakemble.com. My website is corykerr.com. And we'll see you guys in a week. Well, we'll see you on Monday, so less than a week. Have a good weekend.
Bye.